All right, I want to welcome on my next guest. We got a very special guest. We got San Francisco 49ers legend, four-time Pro Bowler, two-time Super Bowl champion, as well as veteran actor. We got Mr. Dwight Hicks. Dwight, how's everything going for you?
Everything is well, as well as could be with this COVID-19 in our midst.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, as they're rolling out the vaccine, I was just reading up on it now. Hopefully, everybody needs to take this stuff. Everybody needs to take it. Sooner, we got to figure it out. It's gonna be the biggest thing. People be like, I'm not taking it. I'm like, why do we make all these doses? I was only so good at science, so let the experts handle that. It's wild. So what's this year been like for you?
2020 I think has been a little challenging for everyone with COVID, and I'm not going to get into politics, but
of course,
it's been challenging for everybody. We'll just leave it at that. Yeah,
that's awesome. What have been your thoughts on the NFL season? I didn't think they'd be having as much success as they are.
Well, yeah, I really, from my point of view, I just felt that the NFL season should be canceled. I know there's a lot of things going on. We're divided. People want to play. People don't want to play. People want to mask. Some people don't want to mask. Some people want to take the vaccine. Some people don't. But I think, and about the economy too.
Yeah.
But I just think that human lives are more important.
Yeah.
And I think if we would have nipped this thing in the bud very early, I think we'd have been open by now.
Yeah. So do I.
That's my point of view.
Of course.
I think we have to all work together and as not only a nation, but globally now too. I mean, we are no longer isolated just in the United States. We have global partners and global relationships that we need to secure and have firm, because that's the only way we can move together forward in a positive direction as a global nation. And let's face it, we're a global nation. What happens over in Europe affects us here, Middle East, Africa, Australia, everywhere. You know, it affects us. We may not think that way, but we need to be thinking that way because it does.
Yeah, no, I was talking a couple months ago, I was talking to Andy Slavitt, who's one of the former heads of the Center for Medicare and Medicaid. And he said, if this is like during the NBA bubble, he said, if we did like a 4-week lockdown, he goes, we could fill stadiums, but we couldn't do it. So yes, I want to get into your career a little bit. So how did you end up at the University of Michigan?
Well, I was just about all set to go to Penn State, and then Michigan came recruiting, and I took a visit, and I started watching them, and it was just a matter of hearing Keith Jackson say, "And the granddaddy of them all." And at Michigan, I would have got a chance to play in the Rose Bowl, which I did twice. And with the helmets and the tradition, great school academically. And I just felt that it was a good fit for me. Yeah.
Do you think people now are too hard on Jim Harbaugh?
No.
Interesting.
No, his dad was my coach.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, his dad was my secondary coach at Michigan. And I just feel that Michigan gets just as good as athletes as anyone.
Yeah.
I don't feel that they're being coached well, fundamentally. And he's not, from what I see on the field, there's a lack of communication and a relation with the players. And the reason why I say that is because when I watched the Wisconsin game a few weeks ago, the Michigan team quit. I had never, you might beat them, but Michigan teams have never quit. And I saw that, and it was very disappointing. So are people being too hard on Harbaugh? No. I mean, this is a storied program, and you either bring it up or get out.
Yeah.
It's tough being, a coach of a big time program.
Yeah.
And the last, 10, 15 years?
It's been a while. It's
been a long while. And it's painful to watch, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So what was your experience like at the University of Michigan? When did you kind of find your groove?
My freshman year, I made the second team my freshman year. I played behind Dave Brown, who's no longer with us. He was a two-time All-American.
Oh, cool.
Played for Seattle and Pittsburgh. And we had good teachers, good mentors that showed us the ropes, what was expected of us. Our practices were very tough. And I just felt that after being at the University of Michigan and playing football for Bo Schembechler, there wasn't anything that I couldn't do, because trust me, everything was live. Everything was live. 7-on-7 was live, and not so much now. We went two-a-days in ball games, scrimmaging, and I thought that was insane. I thought this was supposed to be like a reward, after the season, after doing well. But Bo just felt that he could get a head start on spring football, and he did. So, but all in all, the teammates, the relationships I cultivated there, the education, wonderful experience for me for the most part. Yeah.
And then, so before you got into the NFL, I understand you were in the CFL. How did that come about?
Well, I was drafted. I was projected to go like in the first round. Well, I didn't go until the sixth round. And some people said that, Bo and I sort of bumped heads because he was a pretty hard guy to play for. And he wouldn't want you to question him, and I was always, why are we doing this? And even when the team picked me as a defensive captain, he came up to me afterwards and said, if it was up to me, you wouldn't be captain. And I turned around and said to him, I know, but it wasn't up to you. And I kept walking into the defensive meeting room. It's like, and that's the kind of tumultuous relationship we kind of had. But, so someone told me that to do our relationship sort of defined my position in the draft. And I heard that he said that I wasn't a coachable player. So I went from, being a first round pick. And back then, coaches, their word had a lot of say, had a lot of weight. And so I didn't get picked until the sixth round. And Detroit had 2 picks in the sixth round. And I don't think our secondary coach there wanted to pick me because he gave me a hard time, told Monty Clark, who was the head coach, that I just wasn't good enough to play. And so I kind of proved him wrong. But they released me the second to last cut of the camp. And then I went up in the CFL, played about 4 games, and I hurt my ankle. And I always wanted to play in the NFL. That was just, to stay in shape, give me some time to play football. But one thing it did help was me having to cover a guy, when they're on the 10-yard line, their end zones are 25 yards deep, so they can still throw a deep ball on you on the 10-yard line. So it made you cover longer, and the field was wider. So when I broke on and out there, I thought I'd have a pick in practice, and no, there was a little bit more room left out there. So it helped me in that respect, because when I came back to the NFL, the field was smaller.
Yeah. And I understand that you were working at a health food store?
Yes. I didn't want to get into anything professional as far as a career, because I wanted to play professional football. And when I had worked out for the Giants, I'd worked out for Kansas City, and they wanted me. And but I didn't. I worked out for them, but I didn't sign with them because they wanted to sign me for the following year. And I just felt that, the year's just beginning after I came back from Canada, and felt that if I don't get picked up this year, then I'll go on with my life. But I knew I could play. And it was just a matter of getting the right fit for people to see you. I remember when I was at the Lions, Lem Barney, Hall of Fame.
Legend.
Yes, he told me at a film night one night, he says, Dwight, I don't know what this coach is trying to do to you. Maybe he's trying to discourage you. He said, but I'm telling you, you could play in this league. He said, don't let him mess up your mindset to where you get in the game and you make mistakes. Because there's 27, back then it was 27 more teams in the league trying to upgrade their roster. And he said that you can play, you go in there, you get in the game, show them what you could do, somebody will see. And he was exactly right.
Yeah. So how did the 49ers come into the mix?
Well, I think Dick Vermeil, my position coach at Dick Vermeil when he was at UCLA. Yeah. So there were some coaches that also coached at UCLA that were with the 49ers. So I think there was a connection there. And they probably called up the 49ers, their scouts, and said, look, we just released Dwight Hicks. You guys are hurting in the secondary. You should take a real good look at him. And midway through that season, well, a game before midseason, I went out, worked out. I came back to Southfield, Michigan, where I stay, and the next week they signed me.
Did you put your 2 weeks in at the health food store?
I know. I just put my head in and said, bye.
Yeah, Bill Walsh needs to be there next week. We got you on the schedule already. I'm sorry. You got to come out. So when you get there, what did the Niners, what did they say? Like, did they say like, you have a chance to make the team? What were they telling you?
They just brought me in, and Norb Hecker was my coach, position coach back then. And he took me in. They knew I could play. Yeah. And Norb Hecker brought me in. And he says, look, cover 1 is man-to-man. Cover 2 is man with a free safety. Cover 3 is 3D. Cover 4 is opposite rotation, weak side rotation. He says, hell, you know how to play football. Just go out there and play. Those. And actually, Tony Dungy was starting free safety when I got there.
Unreal.
Yeah. And Tony I had played against him at Minnesota when he was a quarterback.
Yeah. So I interviewed Mark Tressman, and Tony Dungy was the starter when he was the backup. It was just wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I saw Tony, who was a great guy, very nice guy, I just went, Tony, don't get hurt. And something happened. He got hurt. I got in, and you know the rest.
Wow. Do you remember the first time you met Ronnie Lott?
He was a holdout in camp. He's the 49ers' #1 draft choice in '81. So when he came to camp, that's when I met him.
Oh, wow. Do you remember the instance where I think they said something about his kind of like detached part of his finger? They said, you're going to miss time. He said, no, I'm getting back in there.
Yeah, well, he had hurt his finger one game, and I wasn't with the team then. But the story goes that if he wanted to get it fixed and have an operation to get it fixed, he would miss 4 games of the following season. And he said, well, I just took the shortcut. And to me, that's insane. I would have said, Ronnie, that shit don't grow back. Go get your finger fixed, boy.
When you've seen him recently, is it very noticeable?
No, it was maybe just the very typical.
Oh, okay. It's not like
JP nub or anything like that.
No, like JPP's got it much more noticeable.
Yeah, but still, I mean,
yeah,
that's part of me. It ain't coming off.
Those don't grow back. That's wild. And then, so when did you start to feel that you kind of cemented yourself with the Niners? And then how did what they called you, Dwight Hicks? I have it right here, Dwight Hicks and the Hot Licks. Who was the first person to coin that?
I think we had played Washington, and I had a pretty good game there. I think I had a couple picks, a fumble recovery, 80-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown, and a 32-yard interception for a touchdown as well. and we were hitting them pretty good. And when we got back to San Francisco, the media was at the airport, and I think Martin Wyatt, who's Channel 7 in the Bay Area, had interviewed me, and he said, you guys have a nickname name? And I'm like, no. And he says, well, there's some floating around, Dwight Hicks and the Hot Licks. What do you think of that? I'm like, hey, it sounds good to me. And it stuck. Because I was all of what? It was my second full year. So I had 2.5 years under my belt. So I was the wily veteran with these rookies. And and the free safety called all the adjustments. So there you have it.
Yeah. In your opinion, who's the hardest hitting safety in the NFL today?
Ooh, there's a couple of them. I can't say who's the hardest hitting, but I think the game has changed, and you can't hit the guys the way you used to. I think guys today are launching themselves at people without wrapping, and you have to be aware of where your helmet is so there's no head-to-head contact. Well, I learned how to hit with the crown of my, that way you don't miss. It's hard to say though, but there's some still guys out there that could, lay the lumber, but they just have to do it in a different manner. They have to learn a new technique of tackling, which I don't think is happening either, because you see a lot of guys reaching, and I was taught to get body on body. And that way you don't miss. Yeah. Because even if but when you reach, you lose all your power. And that's why you see running backs and receivers stiff arming these guys, because you reach, you have no power, and man, some of those defensive backs are, it's ugly. It's ugly. But we prided ourselves on getting body on body, but like I said, it's a different game. The rules have changed to try to make the game safe, and they want to see more offensive scoring. So
because I know a couple of years ago, Pete Carroll brought in, I think, a former rugby player trying to teach the Seahawks kind of that style tackling, but that really hasn't really caught on.
Yeah, because in rugby they don't have the helmet, so you don't use your head to tackle. No. You have to get your head out of the way, but still you're tackling with the shoulder and body and wrapping up. And a lot of these guys don't wrap up.
No. Who is the hardest guy for you to tackle?
Ooh, there was a few. William Andrews from the Atlanta Falcons. You don't hear that name, but he was a beast. He was maybe about 5'10", about 5'10". They had him listed at 210. He ran like he was 250. Gerald Riggs was another one that Atlanta. He was a beast. Who else? He played for New Orleans. I see his Chuck Muncie, James Wilder. I played in the late 70s, so running back for the Rams. Cullen Bryant was a load. Yeah, you can go down the list. Every team had a guy that could run you over, put it that way, in the pros. And that's how competitive it is. And it doesn't matter if it's a first place team or the last place team. They have receivers that can beat you. They have running backs that can run you over. But there's a lot of hard running backs.
Are you glad you don't have to face Derrick Henry today?
Oh my God, he's one of those Chuck Muncie type guys, because I think how much does he weigh?
I think he's 250.
Yeah, and Chuck was 245, and Chuck he's 6'3", 245, and Chuck could run 100 in like 9.9. And I think my best time was 10.3 in 100 meters.
Yeah.
So, it's like, you want to get them before their shoulders square up to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. Because with Henry, as soon as he gets out in the open field, I'm like, watch out.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's incredible. And then I understand I saw that you led the NFL in picks one season.
I was second in picks to my good friend Everson Walls.
Oh wow, another legend. That's awesome.
You can't believe everything you read because they get it wrong. I'm telling you, they will get it wrong. But I led the league in interception return yards.
Oh, cool.
And there's another fact that people don't know that they don't look for, but I'm like in the top 5 guys in interception return yardage per interception.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So they keep that stat for receivers, but they don't for DBs.
Yeah.
But yeah, once I picked off the ball, I kind of knew what to do with it. I was a running back in high school, so I had good vision.
Was there a certain quarterback that you just knew what he was going to do and you got him more often than somebody else, or was it just kind of just game flow?
Phil Simms. That's right, Phil. Yes. Phil Simms, he's a quirky kind of guy. I can remember when they moved me to corner. We beat them, I think it was a Monday night. And I may have had 2 picks. I know I had 1. I may have had 2 picks, a couple deflections. We win the game, and he comes up to me after the game, and he says, our whole game plan was against you. I'm like, maybe you should have had a different game plan, because look at the scoreboard, dude, and I picked you twice.
Did you keep all those balls of the interception? No? Any of them?
I gave away so much stuff, man. It was just something that I enjoyed doing, and if I could put a smile on somebody's face by giving them a ball or something,
that's awesome. I did. What's your best Bill Walsh story?
Okay, I'll tell you one. Joe came off the field one after a series. And we were punting the ball, and he comes up to me and goes, Dwight, I think the genius is losing it. Joe Montana. So I'll say that. I won't say anything bad about Bill, because Bill was Bill. He was an interesting guy, I'll put it that way. But I have to say that he was the most innovative coach I'd been around as far as offensive football. I mean, he knew his X's and O's, and the only guy that I see in the league that could compare to him in that respect is Andy Reid.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Belichick. Interesting.
Well, Belichick is defense.
Yeah.
Bill was offense.
Interesting.
And so you can't compare those two. Belichick knows his defense, but then again, you have to have your players.
Yeah.
Bill had the right quarterback to run his offense because Joe Montana was the best in the business, and he was a fierce competitor. So, yeah.
I want to make an assumption I'm going to say, in your opinion, I believe it. Joe Montana is the greatest quarterback of all time.
I'm glad he was on our team, Zach.
Second part of the question is Brady number 2?
It's hard to say sometimes. They measure quarterbacks by how many Super Bowls you win.
Yeah.
And that's why Joe is in there. And that's why Brady's in there. I think with the rule changes, Joe would get his ass handed to him a lot of times. Brady, they're laying down. And, I'm not taking anything away from Tom Brady, because he's a Michigan guy, and he's a very good quarterback, longevity. But I think Joe would present an offense with to scramble and get away, keep the play alive, and even run the ball if he had to. And I think I give that edge to Joe.
Interesting.
And it's not just because I played with him. Tom is a damn good quarterback. Yeah. Maybe he is you'd have to make him number 2 because of his success on the field and the teams he played for.
Yeah.
But Joe never lost a Super Bowl.
And then so that first Super Bowl season that you guys ended up in the game, did you feel that something was different, or did you were just hitting your stride?
Well, in the first Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Well, put it this way. I think Bill Walsh had asked the coaches to write down on a piece of paper what they felt our record would be by the end of the year. And most of the coaches wrote, if we're like 500, 8-8, we're right on stride. We were 16-3. We were 13-3, not including the playoffs in the Super Bowl. So I think we were not overachievers. I knew that once we got the secondary handled, and then the last missing piece was Fred Dean, rest his soul.
Yeah.
He was a bad boy. And that was a missing piece. And I knew in camp that we had something special. It was just a matter of when we would actually understand that as a team and how good we were.
That's wild. That's interesting. And then so that first Super Bowl you guys were taking on Cincy, was there any hesitation, or you like, it's in the bag, we got it?
It's in the bag. We had beat them in Cincinnati and handedly during the year. And the only reason why I think that game was so close, Walsh told our defensive coordinator in the second half, because we were, I think, up 20-6 at halftime. And he said, just let them catch the balls underneath, come up and make the tackle. They're not going to have enough time to come back and win the game. And that's what we did. But I think we could have the game really wasn't as close as the score indicated.
Interesting. And then the game being in Michigan, was that like an added factor for you? Like, I'd love to win it.
Yeah, man. I come out on the field, I'm warming up. The Michigan band was down at the one end of the field. I'm like, yeah. And then Diana Ross comes walking across the field. I'm like, yes, Motown, baby. Yes. And then I thought, damn, maybe we might lose this game. Then I said, nah.
Is that the coldest Super Bowl ever?
No, well, it was the coldest day for Super Bowl, but Pontiac Silverdome was in dome.
Okay.
So it was the weather was very nice inside.
Interesting.
Wasn't too pleasant for Cincinnati, but
was Anthony Munoz on that team?
Who?
Anthony Munoz.
Oh yeah. And to tell you a little story about that, how good Fred Dean was, and Anthony Munoz was the NFL lineman of the year, offensive lineman of the year. And Fred Dean, when we played him the first time in Cincinnati, threw Anthony Munoz around like a little boy. I kid you not. And Munoz, hey, he's a great tackle. Okay.
Yeah.
But it tells you how good Fred Dean was.
Yeah.
Because Munoz, I think, was like 290.
Yeah.
He's like 6'7", something like that.
Yeah, I interviewed him a couple months ago because I was talking about his foundation, but he's like, his workout regimen is insane. It's like, I remember he dropped, and people were saying when he got drafted, like, this guy's a mistake. He said all these knee surgeries, and there he was like, yeah, I got something else for you.
Yeah. But Fred Dean, Fred Dean was the real deal. And so when we played him in the Super Bowl, they would line up, and Fred would always line up away from the tight end. And that would be on Munoz's side. And then in the Super Bowl, they would shift Dan Ross over to that side. He would cut Fred Dean's leg, and then Munoz would pick him up. So that's how good Fred Dean was.
And so I have a question. So your first Pro Bowl, what did that mean to you as a guy like people are kind of writing off, like especially with your coach in Michigan, you get written off, 6th round pick, and you're like, yeah, I'm here. What was that for you?
Well, my individual goals was to be an All-Pro to help my team win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And that just solidified my goal and continued to.
Yeah.
And I mean, as far as when I was saying that I knew that I could play,
yeah,
even in having my best years of pro and then not get a lot of action afterwards because people could see what I could do on the field. They put, I think, what's his name from the Rams, Nolan Cromwell. Yeah, in front of me. He started in the Pro Bowl before me. And there was no way in hell. And Nolan's a great guy. Nolan, I love you. But, you know, no. And he may have been all pro too.
Wow. Was the Pro Bowl in Hawaii that year?
Yes. It was in Hawaii the 4 times. I made the Pro Bowl 4 years in a row.
That's awesome.
They were all in Hawaii.
Because I feel like Hawaii is much nicer than Orlando. Nothing against Orlando, but it's Orlando.
Man, the people from Hawaii, they love football. And they came to the game. And, you know, they love the 49ers too, because that was the closest team to them, but to the islands. But Hawaii, you take it away from Hawaii, man. Yeah, I didn't understand that move.
It's probably cheaper.
Yeah.
So yeah, and
probably.
And then so the
as if the owners aren't making enough money.
No, they're barely getting by. Especially with this new TV deal coming. Apparently nobody wants Thursday night football. I just saw it the other day. Apparently nobody really wants it because nobody can have exclusive rights to it because it airs on 15 different channels. So apparently nobody wants it. And it's like the Jags playing it every week anyway, so I wouldn't want it either. But I feel like every week it's Jags Titans. I'm like, again?
Well, but people have to get up in the normal world. People have to get up the next day and the game's late. Yeah. You know? Yeah. I can see why.
It's 6-5 in the fourth quarter. Why am I watching this game? So the second Super Bowl, you guys shut out Dan Marino and the Dolphins. And to this day, every time you bring up Dan Marino, he says he never won a Super Bowl. Do you guys take solace in that? Like, yeah, we know.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember during the press day, media day, Duper and Clayton, they were talking. And I know Mark Clayton.
Oh, cool.
And I know Duper, but I've seen Mark Clayton more. And he's a good friend of my good friend, Everson Walsh. Yeah. And so they were talking all trash all week long. I mean, they were just talking in the paper. And so a reporter came up to me and said, Dwight, they've been virtually unstoppable all year long. So many records, Marino and these receiver grouping. What makes you think that you can win this game? I just said, buy a ticket to the game and check it out. Enough said.
Unbelievable. And then I want to get into your acting career. So I saw it kind of happen by a coincidence that you kind of got out into it. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, after I retired from playing football, I was playing a lot of golf, and then Fox got the NFL. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Fox got the NFL, got a little momentum in my life as far as a direction I wanted to go. And somebody said, Dwight, man, you should go get an agent and go try out for commercials. And I'm like, okay. So I did. And while I was there, somebody asked me, so, how long have you been studying? I'm like, studying what? I didn't know active study. As green as a leaf on a tree, right? On a spring day. And I said, no, I never done this before. I said, but don't get me wrong. I said, I feel I have the confidence to do it. And 2 weeks later, this agent called me up and said, there's a Francis Ford Coppola film in town. Would you like to audition? Now I'm damn near crapping my pants. Francis Ford Coppola, don't get any bigger than that back then. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I did, and that's how it started.
And I saw so that you were in Armageddon. You're also in a movie with Nicolas Cage, The Rock. What is Nicolas Cage like in person?
He's like you see him on film. He's a little quirky. I didn't interact with Nick as much because my scenes, even though I did a couple scenes with him, well, actually a couple scenes with him, I got to interact and talk with Sean Connery.
Wow, you lost him this year too.
That was a lovely experience. And matter of fact, when I watched him and William Forsythe do the film, that scene when they were in prison and he was trying to get Connery to help him. Watching that scene, I was like, wow, something's happening. I don't know what it is, but I want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Because Forsythe and Connery, consummate professionals. And I learned a lot from them.
Yeah. So I want to talk about your time on How I Met Your Mother, because that one of the greatest episodes, one of the greatest episodes of the show of all time. Can you talk about how that you came into that and what that experience was like?
No, I just auditioned for the part and I got it. And I didn't see the script. I just auditioned. I came in and they showed me the sides. You go to your trailer, you makeup, all that. You learn your lines and you go and do it. I was a newscaster, a sportscaster. And
Sid, I was watching it earlier.
Sid, yeah. And it's funny that my nickname in high school was Sid.
Oh wow, that's when you saw Emmitt Smith shooting, were you like, what are you doing here?
No, see, that's the thing. We didn't shoot at the same time.
Oh,
so even though, I never saw Ed Harris on The Rock because we didn't have any scenes together. But this is life, and when you're shooting, it's all make believe, and they can cut and paste, any way they want, and you can do a movie, you can have a really good part, which I did, and even more, and not see somebody that was in the film.
That's wild.
So yeah,
that's incredible. Because the look you gave when she's like, "Don't show it," and you're like, all right, it was incredible. And then at the end, when Neil Patrick Harris runs up he goes, Emmitt Smith. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. he's like, what was the score of the game? And he goes, oh man, that was last night. I was like,
it's good. It's good writing.
Yeah. Unbelievable show.
One of my favorite parts of that episode is the weather guy when they cut away and he thinks he's dead, and they said, "Whoa, how's the weather out there, Sid?" She turns around and says, "How's the weather out there?" And he goes, "With a donut." The same thing it was 5 minutes ago. That's my favorite part. That's a great scene.
What's his name? Jason Segel. Do you get to know any of the guys in the cast that well? Because I feel like
I never met him because my scene was just with
Kobe Smothers.
Kobe Smothers and the other gentleman who was the anchor.
That's wild. That's wild.
And the newscaster.
Yeah.
And the gal that played the producer, which I think you saw just a little bit of her.
Yeah. Because they're trying to get her to pull the sportscast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was it.
That's why. Have you ever talked to Emmitt about that episode you guys were both on?
No. I think I saw Emmitt at a function, a celebrity function. He was playing cards with some guys, and he was pretty intent on his hand.
Yeah.
I just let it go.
Yeah. Actually, one last question for you. Is Jimmy Garoppolo the guy in San Fran?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I like Jimmy. I think when I watch him, he, to me, is a little skittish with his feet. I mean, maybe that's his process. That's how he works. But I'd like to see someone a little calmer because you just see the field better. And you just do. I mean, I played with Joe Montana. The quarterback that I saw, that I've seen, that's the closest to Joe Montana, is Aaron Rodgers. Garoppolo is a really good quarterback. He's got a lot of talent. I would tell him just be calmer back there. Don't be in such a, he just looks skittish to me. And, when they played in the Super Bowl and he misses wide open, Samuels had beaten double coverage. You just lay it out there and let him go get it. You don't have to pinpoint that. And see, I always say, either the moment defines you or you define the moment. And thus far, Jimmy has let the moment define who he was.
Yeah. And then with Alex Smith, who spent so many years there now in Washington, coming back from this basically war injury, are you surprised he's out there? Or
I have the most respect for Alex Smith because I think Nolan was a coach when he was at the 49ers.
Okay. And
he almost destroyed Alex Smith because they didn't have a very good offensive line. And Alex would hang in there. And he had a lot of talent that people never really got to see because he was on his back a lot. Yeah. And Nolan almost ruined his career because they weren't giving him protection. They wouldn't draft offensive linemen to give him protection. And finally, when they did, wow, you start to see what this kid could do. And right now, after coming back from that injury, Alex Smith has all my respect. I mean, he just fought back, a true warrior, and he could still do it after all these years. Yeah.
Were you surprised? Were you surprised that they beat your guys on Sunday?
No.
Really?
No.
Interesting.
49ers have a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
And from week to week. And, even though Jimmy really hasn't defined the moment, I should say. I think the team rallies around him.
Yeah.
Kittle, the team rallies around him. He's not
incredible. He's incredible.
And defensively, they have to come together a little bit because there's some new moving pieces in their secondary. But all in all, they're a solid team. I mean, they're a damn good team. They're a playoff team, but they just have a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
And one thing that you have to understand when you play in the NFL, there are going to be some injuries. But the guys that come in, they have to understand, hey, you have to pick up the slack.
Yeah.
And those guys really haven't. You see spurts of it.
Yeah.
But you have to every week because, like I said, it doesn't matter if the last place team, look who did Washington beat Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, couldn't believe that,
right? They all get paid. They all line up to get a paycheck on Monday. So you got to come ready to play every week.
If your D coordinator had called cover 0 on the Raiders, if you were on that Jets team, how would you have reacted? Like, what are you doing? What Greg Williams said a couple weeks ago.
Well, I have no respect for Greg Williams. Zero, none. And the reason being, not because of that call, is because when he was coaching for the Saints, and they were playing the 49ers, and in that press. When the press was in that room before the game, and he said Crabtree was just coming back off of a knee injury. We want to see how his knee is. You get a chance to take his knee out, you take it out. Football is a tough enough sport as it is. People out there, it's competition. I want the guy at their healthiest. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm going to try to knock the dog shit out of you, but I don't want to hurt him. I don't, it's a tough game. And for him to say that, to me, he shouldn't have been able to coach anywhere, not even Pop Warner. You don't. That's not your mindset. It's about competition. Yeah. It's not about hurting someone. Yeah. Yeah, because people are going to get hurt anyway. Yeah. So you don't go out there intentionally to hurt someone. Yeah. So that's all I want to say.
Yeah. My favorite part of that suspension that doesn't get enough attention is since Sean Payton was out for that year. If you go on his Pro Football Reference page to look at all the seasons, it goes Saints, Saints, Saints. His kids' middle school, Saints, 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 Saints. They put that on there for the year he was suspended.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
The greatest little thing, just like a little jab. It was incredible.